You have heard these songs, beautiful songs, in different languages. The idea of having songs in different languages here is to show you that language is no barrier to the path that is spiritual. Language is no barrier at all for anybody to move on the spiritual path. There is only one language that pervades after you leave the mind. That's the language of love. The language of love does not need any words. The language of love just only needs you to experience the identification with another. It means if you are in love with somebody, you forget who you are. In all my life, I have not found a better treatment for the ego of a human being than an experience of love which puts the ego on the back seat. Everything else puts the ego in the front seat. All efforts we make in life, they try to put the I did this, the I comes in front. When you are in love, you forget the I and the beloved comes in front. That is why love is the answer to the problem of ego. And there is no better cure for this problem of ego people are always complaining about. Experience love. Experience unconditional love. Identify yourself with the beloved. See, there is no separation with the beloved. And you will see that the ego takes a back seat and you become a better meditator, a better follower of the spiritual path. So that is why, just an example, how we can take care of one of the big problems that come in the way. People ask me this question all the time. Is effort more important, which involves ego? Or is grace, acceptance of grace more important? Which means you are leaving it to the master to give the grace. Should we make an effort? Should we leave everything to grace? I have very difficulty in answering this question. I tried to look at some parable, some example from real life, and I found one from the real estate industry. When you borrow money from them and have a mortgage, and you have a certain mortgage amortized over 30 years, when you start paying the loan, you are paying mostly the interest. For many years you are paying interest, but the interest becomes less and less and principal picks up. Halfway through, the interest and the principal are equal. Towards the end, it's only principal. You might have noticed that's how the amortization takes place. In spiritual life, I find that when you are on the path, you start with effort. It's almost all effort. Little bit of grace coming in. Then effort becomes less and less, and grace goes up and up. At the end, it is only grace left. It looks like that's how it works. Is it really true that it works like that? No, it appears to work like that. What actually works is, it's all grace. You can never make an effort if there is no grace. You could have tried for years and years and did nothing about it, and suddenly you have the motivation to make an effort. It's part of grace. At the end of the show, you find that the whole thing was grace. Even what you thought was the effort was also part of grace. So it's the grace that matters, but it looks like effort to start with. Therefore, don't worry about it. If it looks like effort, put in your best effort. And you will notice that as you make the effort becomes less and less, and miraculous things happen, which begin to make you feel, this is all grace, what am I putting my effort for? Now, if you understand this, and right from the beginning say, I know I'm making an effort, this is also part of grace, effort works better. If you think that the effort is because of your mind struggling to do things, it delays the progress. So, struggle is not a real solution to this problem. You should follow more the path of acceptance. Struggling is sometimes working against accepting what is happening. Acceptance works better than a struggle. Struggling can often keep you in your own concerns about success and failure. Supposing you make a big struggle and you'd fail, you lose faith. You begin to lose faith in the whole objective for which you're making the struggle. Whereas that may be just part of the grace that you fail. Now, people don't understand how can that be. I had the story of the Bhandara. He was a judge He was a finance minister of a state in India, not too far from the Dera. And he served as the doorman of the great master's house. He would stand there after he retired. He wrote 3 books, including a book called Heaven on Earth. Some of you might have seen Heaven on Earth. He thought it was heaven on earth to be with the great master. This man told great master, Master, I have had immense joy in being in your company. I have had so much beautiful experiences around you, but I have failed in one area. I have not meditated enough. I have not been able to go inside and see all the beautiful sights that you described.
I agree.
And I would like to do meditation and catch up with what I have missed. Master, you are not going to your hill resort in Dalhousie, which is a hill station in India, this year, this summer. Can I take the keys of your house? It's a blessed house with all the vibes, nice vibes of the master living in it. And can I use that and go and for 3 months do nothing but meditate so that I'll catch up with what I've missed out? Great master said, oh, good idea, good idea. Here are the keys. And he gave him the keys of his house. And this man went up. Master is not here. Nobody is going to come and disturb me. I'll meditate all the time. As soon as he went and opened the door, a man came. Oh, I'm glad you are here. We had to repair something inside. So they began to come and repair. More distractions. Next day, more people distracted him. He tried very hard. He struggled hard. He couldn't even meditate what he was able to do at the Dera. 3 months he failed. 3 months he struggled and got nothing at all. And he went back to great master. Said, Master, I'm sorry I failed. And master laughed at him. He said, you never failed. You passed. He said, I failed. I couldn't get anything in my meditation. Great master said, that was the lesson. It's not the struggle that gives you anything. It's the acceptance of the master's will. When the time is right, things happen automatically and very little effort can give you the results. When the time is right, everything is right. So it is not one struggle, because when you struggle hard, you are relying more on the mind than on the master. And the whole idea of the master is to remove you from dependence on your mind. Therefore, he plays this kind of a game, which he played on that judge. So that's why it's always important to remember that struggling with your mind is not the way to any higher meditation. It's the acceptance of the master's will, and go at the pace at which you can stand it. These dramatic experiences inside, we are not ready to take very easily. We say we will take all the experiences that come inside very easily. If they suddenly come upon you, they freak you out. And therefore it has to be done stage by stage, darja by darja, slowly, at a pace at which you absorb one scene, then move to the next one. And there was a mystic from Multan in Pakistan. He was a heavy mystic, heavy-bodied. And he came, and he had his own following who also came with him. And we used to sit with Great Master. In the evening, one day, the Great Master used to give him a chair to sit on, because he was heavy, could not sit on the floor. But the Great Master sat on one chair, there were other people sitting on the floor, and this mystic from Multan was sitting the other end. And he was a Muslim peer, one of the Muslim peers. So while Great Master was talking to people, he shouted from there, "Why are you doing this, hiding behind this veil of yours? Show them your real face. Let them know who you are." He shouted like that to the Great Master. And Great Master looked at him just like that, and he tumbled over and fell down from the chair. Master said, "What's happened to you?" He said, "I couldn't bear the light that came from you. It was so strong, my eyes couldn't take it." Great Master said, "That's just a reflection from one of the hair of my beard." How will you see the whole of me? You are telling these people that they should see the whole of me. You have eyes to see. You just saw a little light and couldn't even sit on the chair. Therefore, we have to prepare ourselves gradually to see these wonderful sights and wonderful experiences. The lights within us are expressed by Swamiji as equivalent to trillions of lights of this worldly sun. And He divides the different regions and says this was billions of light. This is trillion in Indian language, in Indian calculations. He gives all the. He said there's so much. These eyes can't even see. They can't stand it at all. You can't stand even looking at the sun in this physical world. The light of the soul in Parbrahm by itself is equal to about 16 of the solar suns put together. Each individual soul has that light. Imagine we are covering all that light in so much of this, enveloping bodies and mind and senses around us.
16 suns? Oh, come on.
Jewel doesn't believe it.
I don't.
How about 8?
I would be blind.
The light is a very important factor in these experiences because you see such wonderful lights.
Oh, I've never seen anything, and I'm an old lady.
Oh, we are a sandwich, you know. We 3 of us have to go together and see the lights, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We are 3 of us, myself, Jewel, and Peggy Newman. We are 1 year apart from each other. So we call each other a sandwich. I don't know who's in the middle of the sandwich, but somebody's in the middle, somebody's on the side. We keep it a secret always. Jewel always says, as a sandwich, we should go together wherever we go. I said, that's a good idea. Anyway, I was telling you about the beauty of acceptance. That acceptance is a very big thing. When I came to this country first, there used to be a common sentence spoken by the new agey people. That was, go with the flow. I don't know, it's used less often now, but in the 60s and 70s, very common. Go with the flow. And when I heard it first time, go with the flow, I said, that's wonderful. Go with the flow means accept everything that happens. It's a lesson for acceptance. I said, let's go with the flow. But then people came in and said, go with my flow. I said, that's not go with the flow. If everybody says you go with my flow, then you are not accepting anything. So the acceptance, the power of acceptance is very useful. If we accept what happens and accept from the circumstances around us, accept intuitively what comes to us and do it, we don't create any karma. So karma is based upon when we are not going with the flow, but resisting it, going against it, trying to use our mind, using our judgment to do something different from what the circumstances are asking us to do. So that is why people who live in the will of the Lord, they go with the flow. Maulana Rumi, you might have heard his name, Rumi, he has said in one of his masnavis, in one of his poems, he says, people ask me to live in the will of the Lord. And then they say, we don't know what the will is. Isn't everything the will of the Lord? Even what we are doing with our mind is also will of the Lord. The good things we do, the bad things we do is all will of the Lord. What do they mean by saying, live in the will of the Lord? And the answer is that the Lord has designed the will to operate in 2 ways. The will of the mind and the will of the Lord. In Indian terminology, we call it the manmukhs and the gurmukhs. The manmukhs are following the will of the mind, and the gurmukhs are following the will of the Lord or the will of the Master. So the 2 wills operate. How do you distinguish between them? When you use your mind to make decisions, and your mind is making choices, you are living in the will of the mind. But when you are taking the hint from the Master, from the circumstances outside, then you are following the will of the Lord. So Maulana Rum in that Masnavi says, what's the difficulty in finding out the will of the Lord? If he has given a spade in your hand, he has expressed his will, dig. Given a pen in your hand, he has expressed his will, write. So whatever circumstances and coincidences he has created around you, he has expressed his will, and act upon that. Now, the circumstances and coincidences that happen in our life are a very clear indication of what we are supposed to do. Surprisingly, when you have a gut feeling, an intuitive feeling inside your head, I should do this. Even the mind says, no, don't do it. No, I want to do it because my gut feeling says I want to do it. You'll find the gut feeling that makes you do things fits in with the coincidental evidence that's coming from outside. It's a great coincidence that signs appear outside. They may appear while you're driving your car and you see an ad put up on a hoarding, and the two words of the ad match what you thought of early morning what to do. And you say, what is this good coincidence? These words have appeared here. Don't you think there's a good enough sign of the will of the Lord? When you have coincidences like that and they match with the intuitive gut feeling that you have to do this, then you are living in the will of the Lord. But when you want to calculate, when you want to measure things, when you want to say, is it good or bad? Will I benefit from it or not? When these benefit ratios come up, then you're living in the will of the mind. So living in the will of the Lord requires that we stop too much of calculation. Because He is better calculator than we are, I can tell you this. I'm reminded of a story of a very benevolent king in India. We have a lot of stories of kings and queens and so on. It made sense to the people there. Once upon a time, there was a very benevolent king in India, and he wanted to make sure that every person has a house and a proper food and clothing. He said shelter and clothing and food is essential for everybody. So if people are earning enough to provide these, good. If not, I will provide them. So he would send parties of his deputies and ministers and so on to go around the whole country, touring to see everybody has proper housing, proper clothing and proper food. So in roaming around, they found that there were some people who were poor, so they would provide from the king's treasury. They found one man living in the forest under a tree. He had no house. He hardly had any clothing. He was using some old clothes to wear. And he had no food. He was eating the raw apples and berries from the wild trees in the forest. So they reported to the king that we have found a man who does need help in all these three areas. The king said, but didn't you offer him the help? They said, we did offer. He said, I don't need it. So such a man who is contented with living in a forest, having nothing, he deserves a better deal than the others. So the king packed up some gold in a suitcase. He said, bring some gold from my treasury. He took about 14 kilograms of gold, put them in a suitcase and took it to the forest and met that man sitting under the tree. The man got up when he saw the retinue of the king come there. He said, Your Majesty, what brings you to this forest? He said, I've come to see a man who's contented with nothing. He said, no, I have got everything. Can I feed you something? Please be seated. The king didn't see where to sit, but they all sat on the floor. So king sat on the floor. He said, would you like to eat something? So now the king knows that he doesn't have any food, and yet that man in the forest is offering him food. He says, yes, what would you like to offer us? How about an apple? I got an apple from the tree. The king said, sure, I'll taste some apple. So he plucked an apple from a tree and cut it into 8 pieces. He saw how many people were there. So there were about 8 people, cut to 8. As he was about to give the apple, 10, 15 more people came up, his disciples. And he took the pieces back. And he began to count. Now there are 26 people. So he began to cut those pieces into smaller pieces and made them 26 pieces. And he gave a little piece to everybody. The king was watching all this. He said, in what way is he serving this apple? But then the king got a little piece. When he put it in his mouth, it was so satisfying. He said, it's amazing, my friend, that the little piece of apple that you gave me is more satisfying than the royal dishes that I eat in my palace. What's the secret? He said, King, the secret is simple. You ate too much. This apple was good for 1,000 people. I just made 26 pieces of it. The king was surprised. He said, I am very impressed with you. I brought a gift for you. And he presented his suitcase and he opened it. So this is 14 kilograms of gold. And I am offering it to you because you can sell this gold. It's enough money to build a nice house, to have enough food and a shelter for you and all your disciples who are around you. So that holy man who had performed this little miracle with the apple, he took that gold and said, thank you very much, Your Majesty. I would like to give you a gift also. And he waited. Yes, certainly. What gift can you give? He took that suitcase with the 14 kilograms of gold and said, Your Majesty, I present to you 14 kilograms of gold. He said, how could you present something that I have given you? He said, that means you didn't give it to me. If you still think that is yours, then you never gave me. If you gave it to me, I have a right to give it to anybody I like. If you really gave it to me, you must accept it as a gift. The king was puzzled by that. He said, okay, but I wanted to really let you use this for something. He said, King, wait, I'll tell you something. He told his followers to go and dig under a tree nearby. And they dug under a tree and a chest came out. He said, bring the chest here and show it to the king. And they opened the chest, which is full of gold. He said, Your Majesty, this is 64 kilograms of gold. It's been sitting next to me under the tree all these years. If I needed gold, I could have pulled this out. I am very content with what I have. I have everything I need. I didn't need more gold. You counted 14 kilograms. I didn't even count 64 kilograms I had. The king, you suffer because you count too much. You suffer because you calculate too much. You are always worried about how much is much and how much is little. And this is the cause of all your trouble. If you stop doing that and accept what you have and enjoy what you get, whatever it is, you will have peace and happiness for you. So that was a story in which one learned that too much calculation is not conducive to happiness. That if you accept what you have, that if you get enough to be in a state where you are taken care of, don't compare yourself with other people. Happiness does not come by comparing with other people. Happiness comes by contentment within yourself. That's a big lesson taught. I used this lesson at Harvard University. I took up a course in economics. And the professor said, what subject are you going to pick up? I said, I am going to pick up a subject of what creates happiness economically. That are there things in life that can create happiness without money? Because I am in this country, and this country, the greenback is like God. So it's a good experiment to do here. The professor authorized the research. So I prepared a questionnaire and took about 1,000 names from the telephone book and picked up in that Cambridge and Boston area. I picked up names at random, especially those who were living on the campus also, were faculty members also of the university. I sent them a questionnaire designed by me. This is a course I am doing for credit. So will you please answer this? And after you've given the answers, on one side of the sheet, please write out what gives you happiness. On the other side of the sheet, write down what makes you unhappy. And then after I tabulate all the results, I may have selective interviews with some of you. I said that. I got a lot of feedback, a lot of forms came back to me. So I saw most of the forms said the same things. What will make us happy? Number one, more money. Number two, nice family. 4, big house, big car. All the same things. Most of them listed the same things. What will make good health? What will make you unhappy? On the other side, poverty, not having enough money, not being able to pay the bills. Bad children, disobedient kids who don't listen to you. Broken family, broken relationship. All those things were there. So I said, okay, I'll interview some people now, especially picking up each subject separately. So I picked up the subject of money. I said, here is a person who says he has $10 million of assets.
Wow.
He has done business and he has done Harvard doctorate. He's got a doctorate degree in business and he's also done business and switched between faculty and business many times. He's a very good candidate to question how happy he is with the money. So I questioned him that you have this much money, are you happy? He said, no. I said, how come you wrote on the paper that money makes you happy? And when I ask you a question, you say you are not happy about the money, about your assets. And he gave a very interesting answer. He said, do you know, young man, you are studying at the university where I studied for many years. I worked in that university. I got my doctorate degree. I spent so many years studying. And then I worked and made my money, 10 million. Do you know the bloke living next door to the big house to me? He never went to school. He has got 20 million. How do you expect me to be happy? This man's happiness is being destroyed by his neighbor because the neighbor has more. It was an amazing experience for me. I found out in almost all cases, people were building their happiness or unhappiness by looking at other people. They were not content with what they had, even if they had a lot. People had a lot, but if somebody else had more, they felt there was something missing, that there has been discrimination against them. That nature, the universe, they used to talk of universe at that time. Why is the universe doing this to me? I will look around where the universe is. I can blame the universe. So it is all a question of attitude, that if you are contented within yourself, you'll be happy. But if you look around for other people, you will not be happy. I also said at one time to that group who complained they were unhappy because they looked at other people, I said, look at the poor people. Why don't you compare yourself with those who have less? They said, we try. We try to look at the poor man in Abyssinia, in Ethiopia, in Africa, and we look at all those people. They had bad karma, but we are living in a rich country. We look at the rich people. But we are not comparing with the rich people or the poor people. We are comparing with people who have made more money by less education. That's unfair. So they were complaining about the unfairness of the universe and becoming unhappy, although had all those things. That is why this kind of attitude of comparing yourself with others doesn't help. When the perfect living masters come and walk amongst us, they're looking at people who are rich, who are poor, who are advanced, who are not advanced. They don't discriminate at all between them because they know each one is going according to his or her karma. That we all have built up our situations with our own karma. Nobody else has done it. Nobody is rich because of somebody else. Nobody is poor because of somebody else. It's our own karma at play. And this is a great game of karma that goes on, and it affects everybody. But if you accept, this is my karma, I came with it, I chose it, I made my life, and there are some benefits and there are some disadvantages. I am glad this happened like this. You'll be happy. The best case of happiness like this I heard from an American disciple of great master, Julian Johnson. Julian Johnson, he wrote books. Some of you might have read The Path of the Masters, with a great master in India. He wrote some other books too. This man, when he came, he spent a few years. I was young, but he took on to me as a friendship because I was close to great master, and he thought it's nice to meet a young child who is close to great master and talks like he's an old fellow. Because when I was young, I talked like I was old. When I'm old, I talk like I'm young. I grew upside down. Anyway, this Julian Johnson and I, we used to walk to the river, and he had built a little cave for himself. Because there he noticed that some of the people who wanted to do real meditation, they built little caves in the bluffs of that river. And then they would sit inside the cave and nobody would disturb them. Also, the silence of the cave would help them. They would hear loud shabad, loud sounds were inside, and the Simran was very good. So Julian Johnson said, I also want to have my cave. So he built a small cave, a better cave than the others, because he put a little door outside also. He could shut the door for more privacy. And incidentally, I also used his cave. It was a really good cave. And it really had a lot of sound going on inside. But the point I was making is, I was talking to Julian Johnson. He told me that when he first came and met the great master, he was very impressed. But he always thought that the master is there to help people. And he would say, Master, my relative in America has this problem. Can you help him? Master said, okay, Babaji will take care. My master will take care of it. He would say, Master, can you help my wife? She is going there. She is having trouble. Okay, Babaji will help you. Master, this man is very sick. Can you help him? All right. He later realized that he is trying to get help for a karmic pattern of people where they have to be rich, poor, sick, healthy, and that what he was trying to get intervention in was not that important at all. In fact, he later realized that to get a platter of events in your life, which are both good and bad, is the best combination to make you a human being and a good seeker. He said we spend so much time on trying to get intervention into small events of life, whereas we should only get intervention in any problem that we have in ascending to higher levels of consciousness. Within 2-3 years, he learned this lesson. He said, I've never asked for Great Master to give me any more help in changing people's karma. I know this karma pattern, karmic pattern, is ideal for each one. Each one has built it for himself in a way that the ups and downs match each other and they can make progress and make decisions to be seekers. If we are very happy with good karma in this life, who would seek spirituality? So a man came to me once in one of the programs. He's sitting at the back, and at the end he came to me. He said, you are telling people to follow a spiritual path. I am very happy with what I am getting. I am very happy with my life. Why should I follow the spiritual path? I said, don't follow. You're not a good candidate for the spiritual path. Go and enjoy yourself. Of course, the second day he came again. He said, actually, I'm very unhappy. I said, did you put a test question? He said, no. I was looking that this must be for, what did the word he used for New Agey freaks or something. These spiritual paths are meant for these people and not for people who can think properly, who are educated properly. And I said, some of the best disciples of Great Master were highly educated. They were barristers at law. They were advocates. They were judges. They had spent their time in higher education. They had dealt with important legal matters. And they had very analytical minds. And yet they were following Great Master as beautiful disciples. Because with all their analysis, they found that there is a limit to how far the mind can go. Limit how far the intellect can help anybody. With their intellect, they found that intellect has its limitation. And therefore, they were able to move forward on the spiritual path. I say it's not meant for illiterate people just to follow blindly somebody. The Master himself said, there is no place for blind faith in true spiritual path. Spiritual path is built upon your daily experience growing. As you have more and more faith, everyday experience will grow with you. And that's a spiritual path. If you're static, something is wrong somewhere. I even tell people who say, we haven't made progress in meditation. I said, in every other endeavor of life, when you're doing something and you don't make progress, you look for what is stopping you. Have you stopped to look for it? There was a disciple of Great Master in India. His name was Hira Singh. And he had met all the masters that ever came after Great Master. He would go to every satsang. And one of the masters would have old satsang in his house, would go to his house. So I went to visit him, actually visit the master in his house. And the master left his satsang to come and talk to me inside, and we shared some fruit. He was very impressed that I must have some connection with these masters. That a master can give up his satsang in the middle and just to share some conversation and some fruit. So at the end of our visit, he came to me and he said, you are my Gur Bhai. That means we are both disciples of the Great Master. And I have a question to ask you. Question is that I have been initiated for 40 years. I have followed the instructions of the Master. I have been meditating regularly, 2.5 hours. I have been a vegetarian all this time. I have never tasted alcohol. I have been leading a very pure moral life, having no extramarital activities or anything of the sort. I have tried to lead a pure life. I have made no progress. Can you give me an answer? Why not? I was very shocked that a man who's done so much. He's a disciple of the same Master that I am. And I am flying high and I am sitting on top of the world. Man is having no experience, it's so dejected with the same path. How could there be such differentiation between experiences with the same path? How could there be such... Oh, I said, why do you ask this question from me? Why didn't you ask this question from your Master when you made no progress? He said, I did. asked Great Master. And he smiled and he said, 2 year meditation with love and devotion. I said, then what happened? The Great Master passed away in physical body in 1948. Then what happened? Then I went to other masters. I said, didn't you ask the same question? I asked all the other masters. I am doing my meditation. I am doing everything required. And I have had no progress. What is wrong? I said, what did the other masters say? Oh, they all smiled. And I said, how did you pick on me? He said, because I noticed you give answers to questions of people. Even the master sometimes ask Ishwar to give you the answer. I saw that happening. So I'm pinning you down to give me an answer now. I said, look, this is a tough question you put to me. I need time. I need time to go to the Great Master within myself to get an answer for you. He said, how long will it take? Can you give me an answer in 15 minutes or in half an hour? I'll prepare a room for you to meditate and have contact with your master. I said, no, this is a tough question. It will take 6 months. I bought some time. I said, I'll see you after 6 months and give you the answer. After 6 months, I met him again. I was in a government job at that time, so I traveled to that city where he lived. They went to him and I said, I got the answer for you. The master says, you tried too hard without love and devotion. You thought it's a mechanical thing that happens. That you thought you just keep the time with the watch and you just do things mechanically and you'll go wherever you want. You only satisfied your mind. You did not reach your spirit. Master says, when you meditate, do it with intense love and devotion. Speak to your master inside. Cry there if you want to. You're unhappy with something, the master sitting inside you, he is your friend. Talk to him, cry with him, laugh with him. Don't take meditation to be a mechanical thing. It's an encounter with your master. It's a rendezvous with your master, I told him. And now try it like that. Of course, needless to say, I visited him again after 6 months. He made more progress than most people have made. There's one little tip after 40 years. Made such a big difference. So that is why I have learned this is not a path of mental struggle or egoistic struggle. It's not a mechanical path at all. It's a path of love and devotion. If your meditation lacks love and devotion, if you cannot express your love to your master in meditation, you might as well call it a day. It is not merely the act of sitting like this. If you sit with closed eyes, it's not called meditation. In fact, there was one disciple living in California once who invited me to stay with him. So I went there to meet him. He had been initiated for some years also. And he said, oh, Ishwar, I'm very happy. You are an old disciple of great master. We'll meditate together. Now, by that time, I had stopped meditating too much. I thought I'd done enough in the young days. The young days are better for doing meditation. As you get older, it becomes more difficult. Knees pain and your aches and body aches. So I said, but anyway, because I have to keep an image of being an old disciple of great master, I should meditate with him. So I sat with that man at 3 o'clock in the morning. I was very sleepy, but I woke up because he was sitting in meditation. I had to sit with him. Now, while he was sitting in meditation and I was sitting in meditation, I was actually not really meditating. I was keeping an eye on him. I would occasionally open my eye from the side, from the corner, to see what he was doing. And I tell you, every few minutes, after every 15 minutes or so, after 10 minutes or so, he would look at the watch. He would see if 2.5 hours have passed. At the end of the whole session, he was so tired. So was I. And he said, oh, good, we finished our 2.5 hours of meditation. I said, I want to be blunt and frank with you. Normally I'm not. I try to be diplomatic with people, but with you I have to be blunt. You did not meditate on the master. You meditated on your watch. I saw that you were more conscious of your watch. You were more conscious of completing 2.5 hours than of expressing your love and devotion for your master, which is the key for good meditation. It's not the time that you spend. Indeed, if you are expressing your love and devotion for the master, 2.5 hours will pass as if it is 10 minutes. And if you're trying hard, 10 minutes looks like 2.5 hours. So you'll notice that it's the feelings that you have in meditation that makes all the difference. So that is why meditation without love and devotion does not serve the purpose for which we are sitting in the spiritual path. Now I have had my say after the nice song that you heard. We'll now break for dinner, and I want to tell you that some of you are interested in seeing a card trick. Is anybody really interested in a card trick? Because that's my lighter side. I have a heavy side and I have a light side. I have been using my heavy side all Bhandara day today. And the light side is that we have a little game with the playing cards. But I am reserving the game for playing cards for tomorrow. Okay. I want to know if anybody is really interested. Show of hands. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, enough to bring 2 packs of cards. Okay. So we'll have some light games tomorrow, because don't forget, the fact you are on the spiritual path should not take away your sense of humor nor your sense of game playing. You will notice the higher you go, the more you will realize the whole life was a game. The higher you go, the more you will realize the whole creation was a game. That the Creator is running this show not in a serious way. He is running his show with his moj. The Indian word is moj. Translated, it means playful will. It's a playful will that's creating the whole show. And the higher you go, the more you see the playful will master. Therefore, keep a balance. Keep a balance between the serious side of meditation and the lighter side of life by remembering it's a game. It's a big game. And you are all participating in it and also watching it at the same time. Okay, thank you very much. Enjoy your day.